Life is not always going to play by the rules. It doesn't give a what you want. There's not really much more to say. This is no longer a misogi. This is a generational challenge, physical challenge that I will see through. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel disappointed. But at the same time, it's not okay to really give a what anybody else thinks. Welcome to this edition of the Balanced CEO podcast. This is a no frills, no guests, no bullshit episode. This entire episode is going to be centered around my experience this past weekend at the 29029 Challenge in Utah. I have pondered for multiple days now how I wanted to summarize my experience, summarize the things that went on, the things I experienced. And ultimately what I realized was I can't really put into words everything that I experienced. At first, I thought this might be a great morning dig. If you haven't checked out that podcast, you really should. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc. And then I thought to myself, I think it's going to be way longer than 5 minutes. So I was like, maybe I'll do a special one-off. And I realized that's just, where do you park that? You're going to go make a whole new podcast to do it, or are you going to put it just on YouTube? So I realized the Balanced CEO really is where this belongs. And the reason is, if you're a leader, a person who is trying to become a leader, a business owner, CEO, high performer in any way, and you're battling that desire to harmonize your family, your business, and your health, this is going to hit you. I think this is going to translate for you, my experience and what I'm going through in my head. So let's start from the beginning. I trained for months. 18 months ago, I was battling a severe, life-threatening neurological disorder called Miller-Fisher syndrome. In the time that they found it, they also found cancer on my kidney. So around this time last year, I was fully cleared to train post cryoablation, where they actually froze the tumor off of my kidney. So you could say for the better part of a year, I trained. For the first part of it, I was training specifically for a half marathon in San Francisco that I was able to complete. And then for the second half, two-thirds of the training cycle was specifically built around being ready for the 29029 challenge. To say that challenge kicked me swiftly and with zero care in the world right into my nether regions would be an understatement. I walked into that event with the most confident belief I would not be a part of the 30 or 40% of people that do not finish. And I can tell you mentally, I never quit. But unfortunately, I needed everything to go right. All things within my control to go right, all things not in my control to go right, all things, just everything to be perfect. And it wasn't. And I learned a bunch about myself. I learned a bunch about what I'm capable of. And ultimately, I learned what it's really going to take if I want to say I completed that challenge. And I realized I have a long way to go. But what does any of that have to do with the Balanced CEO, with balancing these things? What is that? What is failure? What does all this have to do with it? Let me get to that now. I did not quit. Point blank, under no circumstances can you say that I quit. After the first 2 rounds, I had never really experienced that level of self-doubt with a physical challenge before. I really did not know what happened. My bell was rung, and I was definitely questioning every life choice that got me to where I was at that moment in time. That's just the bottom line. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I was getting my ass kicked. I got down after the second one and opted to take a long break, get some food in me, which was one of the issues I had run into. Was about halfway up the first lap, I started having really serious stomach issues. Very mild food poisoning-esque, gas, stomach just felt awful, couldn't really eat, was really struggling to get any food in my system, which when you're burning, upwards of 1,500 calories per ascent is not something you can afford to not eat. I do believe because of the issues I was having, I couldn't get enough electrolytes in. I couldn't hydrate enough. And when you couple that with it being in probably in the 80s and elevation being somewhere in the ballpark of, I think, 6,800 feet starting, and you were finishing upwards of around 8,800 feet of elevation, maybe it was even 9,000. Your body is getting hit from all different angles, and you need to really get a boatload of sodium and salt and hydration in, and you need to be able to get a pretty decent amount of food in to keep your body energized throughout the entire event. And let me be clear. This was not a fitness issue. Do I think I would have finished? Not sure. Do I think I would have gotten a lot farther than 3 rounds? Absolutely. But again, battling all those things, I was apparently giving off some signals on my third lap towards the top where there's a lot of staff, a lot of coaches, a lot of people around keeping an eye on things. And I was wobbling a little bit. Now, I didn't really think there was an issue, but, again, I'm not going to argue with them. This is a matter of safety, not a matter of ego. And so I was asked to go down to the physical therapy room in the main hall in the AC and do some recovery, see a medic, make sure they check my vitals. And then, more than likely I'd be free to go back out, later in the day after the sun had gone down and it cooled off somewhat. Turns out my pulse oxygen level was like a 93 to 94 was bouncing. If you really weren't deep into the COVID world, like 92 is when they started really kind of giving you some extra medicine, if I remember correctly, and 90 or below, you were getting hospitalized. So my lung capacity really was not in a good place. And so they put me on ice for, not literally, but figuratively, they put me on ice until the night to see if my pulse ox would come up, to give me a chance to hydrate, eat, try to just get some energy back in me, and put some of those hyper ice boots on. The first signal that things were probably not getting better is as I got out of the chair from the boots, my adductors on the inside of my legs cramped. And I don't mean like a normal like cramp, like, oh, it's cramping and it goes away after a few seconds. I'm talking everything locked up. It was brutal. I had to take an elevator to the bathroom because I couldn't really walk. And it took about 5 minutes for that to clear up. Then, a little later, I'm still struggling to eat. That was another big issue, was I really was struggling hard to eat. And then they came back in to check me again. I think it was close to 9 p.m. and my pulse ox was still sitting at about a 94. So at that point, they medically disqualified me. That is not something you really plan for. I know we always say plan for the worst, expect the best. Or expect the worst, hope for the best. Whatever phrase that gets you by, it helps you sleep at night. But in my experience, you do not plan for a medical disqualification. You do not plan for heat sickness, heat stroke, stomach bugs, food poisoning. Those things just really don't cross your mind because you've done all the preparation, you've done all the research. You made sure to get all the electrolytes and nutrients in throughout the week, prepping up to the day. You know that the aid stations there are going to be full of easy to digest carbohydrate sources and electrolyte sources. And believe me, it was like a buffet of the best options possible for an endurance event. So by no means does any of this fall in the 29029 challenge. I feel like they did everything possible to make sure we were all safe and well taken care of. So by no means can I put any blame on them. But at the same time, if you're struggling to eat and get food in, you're kind of So that's where I was, sitting there in my own feelings, wondering how could it have gone so wrong so fast? And that's kind of when I realized that that's okay. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel disappointed. But at the same time, it's not okay to blame. It's not okay to worry about what anyone else may think. It's not okay to really give a fuck what anybody else thinks. I know there are people out there that will use this against me. They will make fun of me. They'll joke about it. They'll use it however which way to make themselves feel better. That's their problem. If your life sucks that bad that you need to use what happened to me as like a tool to make yourself feel better, I feel bad for you. But I also know there's a lot of people out there that were disappointed because they were rooting for me and they wanted to see the success because they were excited for me to succeed and nothing more. And it's really hard to let those people down and tell them that, I'm done. And it's not even the end of day one. It's not even, I don't even think we were 12 hours in. No, we're about 15 hours in when I got DQ'd. We were not 12 hours in when I got pulled off the mountain. That is a tough pill to swallow, but not as tough as losing your spouse or having kids that will never talk to you again because you put all your time and effort into your business and didn't put enough time and effort into them because you just didn't show up. It will never be as bad as battling cancer. It will never be as bad as laying in a hospital bed wondering if you'll ever walk again. If you'll ever regain the functions to be able to feed yourself and do all those things that, you took for granted for 39 years of your life. It's just a challenge. And guess what? I got what I came for. I learned that my body will quit before my mind, which is crazy to think because in my last morning dig, I talked about how my mind will always quit before my body, but I was proven very wrong. My body quit long before my mind did. And that is a valuable, valuable tool and something incredible to learn about yourself. The idea of a Misogi is that you go out there and challenge yourself. You push yourself to just below your physical limits to learn what you're capable of, what you can do, how far you can push, and unlock new doors and opportunities for yourself in terms of what you're capable of doing, confidence, etc. I got that. I got that out of this event. No doubt in my mind, I got that out of this event. So I came and got what I came for. However, we're not done. The story is not finished. I've already made the commitment to do this again next year. And the year after that, and the year after that, and as many years after that as it takes until I conquer that beast. There's not really much more to say. This is no longer a Misogi. This is a generational challenge, physical challenge that I will see through. Not because of ego or machismo, but because I know my 7-year-old is watching how I respond to this moment. I know my wife is struggling with the fact that she knows that I was hurting from that. And I want her to know it's okay because I'm going to pick my ass up and I'm going to do it again. I want everyone around me to know that it's okay to get punched in your mouth, that it's okay to, get your ass kicked every now and then, as long as you get up and you keep going. I heard this great quote recently that said, life is about 20% what happens to you and 80% how you respond. This is the end of the 20%. Everything from Friday to today, that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So about 6 days, that was the 20%. That was what happened to me. Today until next year is the 80% how I respond. The next 11 months of training and focus and diligence and showing up and doing the things that I need to do, strengthening my body, strengthening my core, strengthening my legs, improving my diet, improving my nutrition, dialing in my electrolyte intake and my overall hydration and water and salt balance. That's the response. That next year I'm coming in as a completely different person with an even better mindset and a significantly improved preparation. Because I know exactly what this thing's going to do to me from the start. When you're trying to harmonize family, health, and your business, life is not always going to play by the rules, and it doesn't, for just to be plain and simple, it doesn't give a fuck what you want. It didn't give a fuck that I wanted this so bad. It didn't give a fuck how hard I trained. It didn't give a fuck that my family was there. It didn't give a fuck that I had a dozen people texting and following and tracking and caring about me and rooting for me every step and hoping that I did well. It doesn't care. It didn't care that it's people waiting for me to fail so they could use it against me. It just cares what I do with that other 80%. All it cares about is how I respond. I hope that helps. This really means a lot to me, having this platform, having the opportunity to share my life and to open up the space for other people that want to share their lives, and people, hardworking, amazing people that want to create businesses, not just for themselves, but businesses and lifestyles for their friends and their family and their loved ones and the whole world. I don't take that for granted. And I just want you guys to know that I'm so appreciative of this platform. I'm so appreciative of all the support. I'm so appreciative of all the people that reached out with positive affirmations and checking in on me and reminding me that this doesn't define me. And they're absolutely right. It's what happens over the next 11 months that defines me. That will define who I am. That will send the message to my son, to my friends, to my family, that this is how we get down. This is the definition of keep digging in. With that, I hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll be back next week with more interviews for the foreseeable future. And as always, keep digging in.